Welcome to another edition of Conversations with the Candidates. I'm Tammy Daniels, editor of iBerkshires.com, and we're here in the Northern Berkshire Community Television studios to speak with the candidates for mayor of the city of North Adams in election 2023. This is our fifth and final episode for this election. And with me in the studio, I have Jennifer Macksey and Aprilyn Carsno. And I'm going to allow them to talk to you a little bit about, introduce themselves to the voters, and a little bit about sort of what their vision is for the next 2 years. And we're going to start out with Ms. Carsno.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Aprilyn Carsno. My father and mother met in North Adams. His job was transferred to the other side of Boston, where I was born and raised. I moved back to the Berkshires 27 years ago, almost 28 actually now. I am a single mom, a widower, 6 children, 12 grandchildren. I have education in criminal justice and business. I was a CNA for over 25 years. I'm hoping to move this city forward from an outside view. I'm an independent, and hopefully throughout this time, you'll be able to learn more about me and what I want to do with my platform.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Macksey.
Great. I'd like to thank Tammy Daniels and Dave Fabiano from the TV station for hosting this event today. It's a pleasure to be here. I would be most honored to continue as your mayor, not only for the next few years, but for many years to come. This is not just a job for me, but this is a goal, a lifelong goal. I have a deep love for this city, as it's been my home my entire life. My parents have always stressed to me to give back to my community, and whenever possible. And I give my heart and soul to the city of North Adams every day. This community has been good to me and my family. I've met people from all walks of life within this community. I've listened to you, and most importantly, I've heard what you're saying. The common theme is that North Adams residents want it to be the best it can. Parents want a good education for their children with quality jobs to support their family. Residents want quality of life that protects our environment, allows seniors to feel safe in their homes, and a government that is responsive and compassionate. I feel that my extensive municipal and educational experience has prepared me well to continue on this journey as mayor and move this city forward. I will ensure to you that professional leadership, accountability, and financial oversight is within local government. The election this year centers around one central theme, and that is experienced leadership. I believe my resume and work ethic speaks for itself. North Adams needs a strong and experienced leader, and I am that person, and I am well prepared to continue to move North Adams forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to throw it first to Ms. Carsno. You said an outside perspective, and what do you mean by that, since you've been here for 28 years now? So what do you mean by outside perspective?
I am from the other side of Boston. It's full of life, businesses, jobs, housing. I'm looking at it from where I grew up and how everything is so far ahead of this. North Adams is so behind in times. Our infrastructure is awful. Our schools are falling apart. There's no upkeep on them. Our elderly they don't even feel safe living in the high rise, and nothing's being done to rectify it. Something needs to be done. And I feel like, because I've lived elsewhere, I see how it's supposed to be. Okay, so I would love the opportunity to bring North Adams forward into the future. I know I could do it.
So I want Ms. Macksey respond to that.
Sure. So when we talk about public safety and people being safe in the community, a big focus my first 2 years in office has been filling vacant positions for police officers and firefighters. We have reinstituted more of a community policing model where officers are meeting with people in the neighborhoods and trying to get to know them on good days, not just on bad days. And as far as safety in the high rise, we've worked very closely with the administration at the high rise to try to safeguard their residents. That is a public but yet private entity. The City of North Adams doesn't control that entity, but we certainly are there to support and help in the situation. I agree with April about the high rise. That's an issue that we have, but when you rent to people, you can't discriminate against them. And we are working with the staff at the high rise to, really focus in on those problem areas within the high rise. As far as crumbling schools, the City of North Adams has invested a lot of money within the public school district. Just last week, we took a vote to continue forward in the feasibility study of a new building. We spent extensive time evaluating grade span schools, looking at our school population, and what would be the best option, not only for the children of today, but the children 30, 40 years down the road. So while we talk about the same thing, those are all topics that I think I have checked the box on and will continue to check the box on as we move forward. I feel strongly that you have to have a safe community first to build education and to build businesses and economic development, and we're addressing that hands-on. I think I've talked publicly about how we've seized close to $500,000 in drugs in the last 2 years. We've taken about 20 guns off the street, and we continue to do more work like that. And I'm not out there, chasing the cops, the robbers and all of that, but I'm there supporting the troops and making sure they have the resources to do that job.
And so, Ms. Carsno, we're talking about schools. Would you support a new Greylock school?
No.
No? So what do you think we should do with that building? Or the school
I
system?
honestly think we should redo that building.
So you would have voted for a renovation, not a
Oh,
new,
definitely.
Not a new school?
I'm very frugal, okay? I'm a single mom, and I don't believe in unnecessary spending. I believe in, I'm a penny pincher, straight out. I can stretch anything. I've survived this long raising my family on a very little budget, and I would do the same with the city. Cut unnecessary spending. Why build a $61 million school? That's insane. We need a fire department. Nothing's being done about that.
Yep, so
We have all these elementary schools. Our student population is so small, it's ridiculous. I don't understand why we would even need to build another school.
You want to respond to that, Ms. Macksey?
do you have
Yeah.
anything else?
No.
Okay. So along the school aspect, one of the elementary schools will go offline because of our population. And we, as a school committee and a school building committee, have voted to change our educational structure to grade span schools. So pre-K to 2, 3 to 6, and 7 to 12. One of the schools have to go offline because we don't need all of that space. And when we talk about $61 million, it gives me a heart attack, to be quite honest with you, Ms. Carsno. But you have to remember that of that, 80% is going to be reimbursed through a state grant, through the Massachusetts School Building Assistance Bureau. And then the remaining part of that will be spread out over a bond issue over 30 years. When we talk about reno versus new construction, we learned from the Conti Middle School, granted that is a historic building, that renovating an old building caused more change orders than what it would have probably to have built outright. And for the span, the difference in the reno versus the new school, the school building committee as well as the school committee felt that it was worth it. Now, from this point, we could go to the School Building Assistance Bureau at the end of the month, I believe it's November 15th, we testify, and they could say, you people are nuts, or they could applaud us. But through this process, they have been applauding us for hitting pause and saying, look, we have a declining enrollment. We need to look at a different makeup of our schools, and that's exactly what we've done. So the decisions that we're making today will carry us forward for the next 30 to, I say 50 years. Buildings, they put a life on it, I think of 40 to 50 years, but the reality is in North Adams, it's probably 75. But yes, we do have infrastructure issues in our school, but that's why we have to consolidate. Greylock School probably won't survive 2 more winters. The kids could sit in some classrooms with umbrellas, and that's unacceptable. So with the start of the Bernard administration, and I have followed up and will continue to follow up, we're taking steps to improve that. But it's not all about the infrastructure of a building. It's about what's going on in the building. And over the last 2 years as chairman of the school committee, we've really focused on educational plans. And this wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction, hey, we're going to build a new school and spend $61 million. This has been plotted out for the last probably 3 years as to what it was going to look like and how we were going to finance it. But the decision, this is just one step in a multitude of steps. And this is the first step. And I fully support the school building committee's decision and the school committee's decision that investing in a new school at Greylock will be in the best interest of the community moving forward. And I want to comment about the fire department.
Good, that's what I was going to bring up next. So
Yes.
Go for it.
So as we all know, we moved the police station over to a temporary location on Holden Street.
Yeah,
you
implemented my idea from last.
Well, I don't think it's your idea. I think it's an idea that's been talked about probably since Dick Alkenbright was mayor and then through Bernard.
It was in my run 2 years ago, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
but I'll give you credit if you want credit for that.
Definitely
No
do.
problem. But where the credit comes is being able to turn that empty space into an operational police department, which we did under my watch. But we have not forgotten the fire department. Over the last 18 months, mostly in the first year of my term, we took the data that was given to us from the building committee for the public safety building, and we did a needs assessment of what does a building look like, a public safety complex look like, again, for the future, with police, fire, EMS, dispatch, wire and alarm really should be under the public safety umbrella, and what does that look like? So we haven't done anything. Both departments did an extensive needs assessment, which then teed us up to say most of these spaces that were identified by the building committee aren't big enough for what we need. So by moving the police department out, we've provided a more adequate ADA compliant building for our constituents as well as our staff. The fire department has had some renovation and certainly needs much more, but the work is not done. Ideally, I'd love to build upon the Windsor Mill lot, but the lot is dirty. We need to do Brownsfield's assessment. So we are continually working on that, and we're looking at remediation plans for the Windsor Mill, and we're almost to the point where we're ready to issue an RFP to hire an engineer. However, the state of Massachusetts did not hold true to the $1.2 million authorization that was earmarked for us on the Christmas card list probably close to 8 years ago. And every time I get in front of the governor or the lieutenant governor, that is the conversation. Public safety money, public safety money. But through my experience and through networking over the last 2 years, the state is really interested in having a municipal fund similar to what they do for schools. So in the meantime, North Adams needs to continue to move forward, and that's what we're doing. The work hasn't stopped. It may not be as visible, but it certainly has not stopped. And the fire department, right now, our focus has been on staffing, and our focus is on equipment. So, to say that nothing has been done, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But again, it's not something that you can just say, poof, I'm going to put a building here on 26 Union Street.
So what is your take on that? What do you think we should be doing for public safety?
The fire department, don't we own the land behind Big Y, directly across from the courthouse? Why don't we put the fire department there? It's plenty big enough. We already own it.
The goal is to have a public safety complex that houses police and fire.
And it's plenty big enough for both.
That parcel is not big enough to house both.
Definitely is.
With a training ground and the appropriate amount of parking spaces that you need, not only for staff and visitors, it is not big enough.
Is it necessary to have a public safety complex?
No.
Well, I feel that's like a philosophy. You can go both ways on it.
Where I'm from, the fire department is one section, and way down the street is the police department. They are not connected. They're not connected in Adams either. Only North Adams wants to keep them connected, which is ridiculous.
We mostly want to keep it connected for resources, administrative support. And right now, the feeling is that we want to build a public safety complex where everyone is housed under one building instead of having.
When we're talking about administrative support, are we talking dispatch?
We're talking dispatch, we're talking
internet access?
admins, we're
Okay.
talking about phone systems, we're talking about cleaning services. I mean, we have a hard time maintaining what we own now. So one building, and we can differ on this, but I'm very committed to the public safety model.
The one building didn't work last time. What makes you think it's going to work the next time?
What do you mean the one building?
The fire department and police department were in one building. It was not kept up. It's falling apart.
Right, but that's
Because it's in one building.
But that's because
it's
of
not going to change what happens with
But that's
the
because of
upkeep on the building
that's
is what I'm
because of
saying.
deferred maintenance. The city was guilty of not maintaining that building, and quite
what's
frankly,
to say it won't happen again?
well, that's why you need administration that will make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, if you go to City Hall today, you could eat off the floors at City Hall. If you went there 3 years ago, you probably wouldn't let your dog walk on it. I mean, you need an administration that's going to stay on top of those things and not dodge deferred maintenance. And unfortunately, that's what I've inherited, tons and tons of deferred maintenance. That building where it is right now, we've outgrown it. We've outgrown it. And then there's always a question of, do we renovate it and put an addition off the back and cut a deal with the L-shaped mall people? You know, that building is a problem. It's a problem. And
So,
it's been a problem for
yeah.
30 years.
I just,
So how would you, going back to the idea, you're both talking about maintenance of buildings, how would you prevent city buildings from, well, deteriorating like they have been?
there has to
What
be
is your-
a
what is your
schedule
proposal?
upkeep. They need to be inspected. It's not whenever something happens. No, we need a set schedule to look over the city buildings, the schools, keep everything, it has to be on a schedule. I'm sorry, I think outside the box. I'm not like stuck in a box where it has to be this way or that way. No, the fire department does not need to be near the police department. We have that land. We haven't built anything anywhere because we need land, but we have the land and no one's using it. And I think I feel like it's an excuse, let me just finish, because there's definitely grants for this, and I have a list of them. I've done my research, and there's no excuse for it not being done. I'm sorry.
You have a grant to build a fire department?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
It's the AFG, write it down.
I don't need to write it down.
Then you should know what
Maybe
it
it's
is.
the Assistance for Firefighters Grants is what
Right.
she's talking about.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they have a list of them. And I just don't understand why nothing is getting done. The budget, that's another story. You know, we went from one level to over 5 million. That's insane. And you got a $10,000 raise, but nothing's happened with the city.
I disagree with you completely about nothing happening with
Well,
the
I
city.
haven't seen it.
Well, then maybe we should walk around together. So we currently have a project going on at the Mohawk Theater to restore the marquee. We are currently designing and engineering the Brown Street Bridge. We are currently working on the public safety building. We have a feasibility study going on for Brayton School. We have an engineering design for the Walnut wall repair, as well as, did I say the YMCA roof?
No.
As well as the whole infrastructure system and the I&I study. Do you know what I&I is? Nothing was shovel ready when I became into office. And we, over the last 18 months, have been focused on those things. We recently applied for a grant for lead and copper study, which were mandated by the EPA. We're making excellent progress on the Hoosick River Revitalization Project. I can't say that nothing's been done. I mean, I want to fix all the sidewalks. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that point. That we need to
Sidewalks,
fix-
sinkholes, Walnut
Yeah.
Street have missing for years now. You know, the chutes.
The Walnut Street.
It's been a long
It's
time
been
like that.
30 years. My dear friend lived right across from it, and I remember her coming into City Hall many, many years ago complaining about the wall. The wall just fell, probably my second or third month into office. And it has taken a village to get an engineering plan around that, and we're far from done. We're far from done. And to say that nothing's been done, a lot of things are in progress. A lot of things are being done. And just the fact that, we're responsive to our citizens, just the fact that we are restoring the marquee, just the fact that we have investment in the porches, we have investment in tourists, we have investment in Greylock Works. Our Main Street is almost full.
What about the buildings down near Freight Yard?
Yeah, Heritage Park. So you want to talk
Let's,
about
in fact, let's talk about empty buildings.
Heritage
Thank
Park.
you. So let's
looks
talk about
awful.
Heritage Park. So,
Go down there and paint it, beautify it, something.
You can't just paint those buildings.
Why?
Because they have asbestos paint. So the paint needs to be professionally removed.
So tint it.
And it takes money. It takes money.
Well, instead of planting annuals every year downtown, plant some perennials.
Well,
We'll save some on the budget.
Well, I'm going to tell you about the Main Street. I'm committed to that Main Street. And I'll plant as many flowers in the Main Street as I want.
But that's unnecessary spending.
It's not unnecessary spending when I can cover it. And as far as Heritage Park goes, again, those buildings were in disrepair. They still are in disrepair. We were fortunate to save Building 6 and get a tenant in Building 6. We are working on a plan with Berkshire Regional Planning for the other buildings, just to kind of do the roofs, kind of make them water resistant, to look at the paint. But April, you just can't go in and do work on city property like you do on your house. You know that, right? So
Yeah, there's steps to everything.
Right,
I understand
so-
that, but it's been empty for years.
it's been empty for
the
years,
last-
and it was empty for
last
years
business was
because
in there
the
was
city
Casey's
made a
Bridal.
deal with someone who ran a lot of the merchants out of Heritage Park. And then a water leak happened in buildings 4 and 5 and did a lot of destruction. And it was never repaired. The smell is terrible.
Student mold barley.
Yeah, yeah. So we just can't just flip the key. We've talked a lot about making those commercial condos and, giving people low rent so they invest in it, similar to what we're talking about with the Freight Yard Pub. The museum, we did a lot of mold remediation. We temporarily fixed that roof. We put that roof out to bid not once but twice, and it came in close to $150,000 over bid. You can't just take money out of the sky. You have
Who
to
are
have.
you reaching out to for roofers? If you need a few, I'll give you numbers, but that's insane.
You just can't hire, Tammy Daniels Roofing. They have to be DCAM certified. They have to be bonded. It's a whole process, and the state requires us to do that, and it slows down the process. I'd love to be able to call Tammy Daniels Roofing and put her on the roof tomorrow, but it's a process. Just to even fix a roof, April, we got to try to get 3 quotes, unless it's declared an emergency. But it takes time. But as you're mapping this out and you're going through the procurement process, you also have to have the funding. And it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
There are grants out there. Do you have a grant writer?
I do. I have 3 of them.
I don't know what the holdup is on, the infrastructure. I'm sorry, it's just,
And this year, we've brought in the last 18 months, close to $4 million of grants. A lot of them revolving around public safety. A lot of them are revolving around striving communities, traffic plans. One in particular around enhancing services around family support groups, domestic violence, educational plans, summer programming. So to say that we're not doing anything, that's, BS.
I disagree, but that's my opinion.
That's true, and you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to mine.
Yep.
so let's talk about some other empty buildings.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation going here. What are we doing? Well, obviously, you mentioned that you are looking at plans for Brayton once it is closed. So what are we doing about Sullivan, which is still
I
empty?
actually had a plan for Sullivan within my platform.
And what would your plans be for Sullivan?
I would love to bring the Own Your Own Home program back, okay? Years ago, I owned a home through the Own Your Own Home program through City Hall. It was for low-income families. It was 2% down, 3% interest rate. I would love to turn Sullivan School into condos and sell them to low-income families. It already has a playground there for the children. People would have something to call their own, and it would be respected and taken care of. McCann students came in, worked on the houses that they had years ago, and that would be like something that I desperately want to do. Sullivan would be perfect for that. And then, the houses that were taken for back taxes and, that the city has taken, I would in turn take those again, have them be part of the Own Your Own Home program, so low-income families have the opportunity to become homeowners. The housing around here, it's like, it's so hard to find an apartment. And I want to create elderly housing that's strictly for elderlies, okay? And you can say I'm discriminating, I don't care, because they have the right to feel safe within their own home. There's stabbings at the high rise, for God's sakes. When I moved up here in '97, it was like age 55 and up there. I don't know what happened, but it's nothing but riffraff. The people in the housing authority are locked in their office because they don't feel safe. That speaks for itself. So my biggest thing, besides infrastructure, is housing for the low income and the elderly. Something needs to be done, and it's way overdue.
Well, we know that there's a housing crisis all over, right? And housing prices and rent has, excuse me, has really gotten out of control. And it's sort of become obvious. I mean, the governor has spoken about this too, about public investment in housing. So how do you think, what is your take on, should the city become more involved in public housing and providing these kinds of opportunities?
I think the city should become more involved in public housing in supporting the efforts. I don't know that we are equipped to run public housing. I think we certainly should be a partner in running, not so much running, but supporting those needs. I also think that, the original question was, I believe, about Sullivan School.
Sullivan School, yes.
So the Own Your Own Home program in the day when it was running was about residential. So creating condos is more of a commercial, but I do love that idea, and I don't want to be blamed for stealing it, but it is a great idea about having that be a residential setting. And years ago, that was a proposal that was put forth through a prior administration, and the concern was, again, infrastructure up there. But going back to Sullivan School for a second, we are keeping a temperature and we are touring people through that. We have to issue an RFP, but we want to issue an RFP when the climate is right. We've talked to people about artist loss, we've talked to people about more housing, we've talked to people about a potential differentiated school, we've talked to people about condos, but just to re-engage that school, you're going to need millions and millions of dollars. We've had multiple fires up there. The playground equipment is not handicap accessible and really can't be used again. So that isn't really a selling point for Sullivan School. And, you have to position it right with the neighborhood. And that's what we are trying to do. It's all about timing. It's not that we've forgotten about that property. It's about having a portfolio of people who are interested in that, as well as doing a public procurement of that. And when you talk about stabbings, unfortunately or fortunately, stabbings can occur anywhere. We could walk out in this parking lot tonight and get stabbed. So it's not all about stabbings at the high rise. We've had stabbings on Charles Street. We've had stabbings on State Street. And it's unfortunately what we're dealing with. But it's not just here in North Adams, it's everywhere.
Oh, I know that.
Okay, so I just wanted to make it clear that it's just not the high rise.
Right. But back to Sullivan School, Mike New Valley ran the program, okay? And in case no one understands what it was, the Community Development Office, which Mike worked at, he worked with the Housing Authority and McCann School, and they put all these houses together. And I think it would be great, and it would definitely fit in
I agree with
at
you.
that area, because when you own a home, you appreciate more. It's not like just renting an apartment and, disrespecting what you rent, okay? Home ownership makes you proud, and you want to make sure everything is just right. At least it is for me.
Yeah. I agree with you about that the Own Your Own Home program was valuable in this community. Totally agree with you,
was
April,
huge.
on that. It was great. A decision was made in a prior administration that we weren't going to continue to fund that through CBGY funds and that we were going to focus dollars elsewhere. We haven't had an opportunity to add it back. That doesn't mean that we won't.
Alkenbright got rid of it.
Was it?
Yes, yes.
But I will agree with you that that is an excellent topic. The problem that we have right now is the houses that we're foreclosing on for past due taxes or water liens, or that mysteriously somehow become property of the city of North Adams, are in really poor quality.
The house I owned, you could have probably blew it over.
Yeah, and you have a very nice house now.
No, not compared to the house I owned through the program. The house I bought through the program was rebuilt literally from the studs up. It was a shell. So I don't want to hear about it's just, if a house has good bones, you can add to those good bones.
I agree with you.
It could be a shell, and you can build it up and make it beautiful. I understand the houses around here do not look catalog perfect, okay?
May I ask you a question?
But it can be fixed, and you need to look outside the box.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
So how would you fund an Own Your Home program, Own Your Own Home program? How would you get a startup? How would you do a startup?
There was grants that they used, and McCann students had redid the houses. It was great because they were graded on it. It was part of their grade.
But
And
how
things
would,
were donated.
right, but how would you initiate that grant application? Like,
How
would you-
does someone go about applying?
no. How would you, as the mayor, initiate that grant application to reinstitute the Own Your Own Home program? Where would you start?
I would meet with Mike. He headed that, and we'd go over everything that needed to be over.
Where would the funding come from?
There's different programs. That's why I was ecstatic when I found out that Mike still worked there.
Yeah.
Because he knows the ins and out of that program. I personally do not, because I wasn't part of that program on his side. I was on the other side, the one buying the home. And it needs to be brought back.
I don't disagree with you on that. Not at all.
Okay. Let's talk economy.
Economy.
Obviously,
Can we bring down the price of sheetrock
if we
or
could bring down the
plywood?
price of cheap, yeah. Home building has gotten very, very expensive. So let's talk about the economy. I think we've definitely seen an improvement over the last several years, based on from 10 years ago even. But how do we get more business and jobs in here? And if we have more jobs, so we can generate more tax revenue, how do we get more people to move here to fill those jobs? And I'm going to let Ms. Macksey
Sure,
go
thank
first
you.
on that.
So 2 things. The first thing is I think we as a community in North Adams need to market ourselves better. We have, our natural resources are beautiful. We live in a beautiful community, and we have a lot of talent here in North Adams. So I think the first step in recruiting businesses is marketing ourselves better. And that not only includes, the pretty pictures, but streamlining our processes so they're more business friendly. An example of that is, our website, really making sure forms are updated, and that even, the online permitting piece, which has been a struggle for us, but making us more business friendly to start. The second piece of building a new economy and attracting new businesses is having an educated workforce. So I really believe in workforce development, and also being able to provide, whether we work through Berkshire Works or we work through different agencies throughout the state, of really having training options available. And unfortunately, we need more options available here in North Adams. People have a hard time getting to Pittsfield. And then the second part of that is really working with businesses who are interested to encourage on-the-job training. We look at people like Temescal, and we look at people like tourists in the porches who are bringing their people along. They may start as an entry-level position, but they're moving up and they're making a decent wage with benefits. We need companies who are going to reinvest in their employees, which i.e. reinvest in our residents and our community. But for us, we really, yes, we need middle to light industry, but we also have to be supportive of stores like the Plant Collector, which is a beautiful store. Places like Savvy High, and the Porches, and the Down Street Hotel, iBerkshires, Boxcar Media, Walmart. We have to support our local economy. And, I always joke, or not joke, but I'd love to be able to buy a nice pair of shoes in town. But the reality, the world has changed. The world has changed, and everybody's, instant Amazon delivery. But we as a community really need to be user-friendly to our business.
And I want to touch on the tax rates too, because we do have a very high commercial tax rate.
Yeah.
So how is that going to look going into fiscal 2024?
Yep, so we're currently working on getting all of our values certified. So the crystal ball, I can't look into and give you a projection, but I'm also very sensitive to that commercial rate, and also not putting the burden on our residents. And I think you saw a little bit of the dance we did last year on the council floor about what the shift looked like. Last year we did have a tax rate decrease in the rate, but our assessments went through the roof because of the market data. So as we move forward, we're really sensitive to that, and how we get those two in line is not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen in a 2-year or 4-year cycle. I'm very sensitive to the burden put on the taxpayers.
And Ms. Carsno, how do we promote business and get people to move here?
Well, first, we don't scare them off because we don't like what they are. We lost the growth in 2 spots, actually. One on Ashland Street, and one in the old Crane building is gone.
No,
So
that's not true. Temescal's operating.
I was told they left.
No.
No, they're there.
Okay. But we lost the one on Ashland, which we lost revenue.
The outdoor grow.
Yes, correct. So again, my thinking is different from others. I'm more like hands-on. I would like to reach out to different businesses and invite them to North Adams. A lot of people don't know North Adams. When I moved up here, my friends had no clue. They never even heard of it. If we don't intrigue these people and, my thing is just like reaching out, bringing them to us, letting them know we're here. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of jobs around here due to the lack of businesses. And I would love to start a shoe store. I talked to my cousin about that because I like to try on, not just buy. But everybody keeps leaving. And this is a ghost town. When I moved here 27, 28 years ago, we had Kmart, we had different stores and restaurants open. There's nothing. We don't even have a movie theater. That's bad. There's nothing for children to do. There's nothing for anybody to do around here unless they go elsewhere. And I would love to make this city alive again. So that way we can have, not just tourists, but people that actually want to come and stay. Our economy, I'm sorry, it's not the best. And the budget keeps going higher.
So what would you do about the commercial rate?
I'm
If you
torn.
lower the commercial rate, you raise the residential, you lower the residential,
I'm
they
honestly
raise the
torn
commercial.
on
Yeah.
the commercial rate because are they getting the business to pay that higher rate? That's the question. Because it's not the only tax they have to pay. They have all their inventory they have to pay on as well. And so it's not just like commercial versus residential. The commercial has more taxes than the residential, but I don't want the residential rate to go up, but you need to look at, does this company have that kind of, customers coming in? Are they making the money enough to pay that bill? Or are they just going to fold up and leave because they're paying out more than they're making? And I'm sorry, I think everything needs to be looked at.
Okay.
As far as like nothing to do in North Adams, I mean, granted, we don't have a big nightclub or anything like that, but we have tons of things going on in North Adams. Throughout the summer, Wednesday nights we have concert in the lakes, Thursday nights party in the park, Friday nights, First Friday, we have First Friday of the month. Saturdays we've had parties in the park at the State Street Park. We have multiple things going on at the North Adams Public Library for kids. Mass MoCA has multiple events for kids and for residents who want to partake. We're very fortunate that we have the Clark Art right around the corner. Plus, our businesses in our downtown are very engaging with our residents. The plant collector has multiple different kinds of activities going on at different times of the month. There's things to do in North Adams if you want to go out and do them. Then there's also, the natural beauty. Take a hike. Go hike Natural Bridge, go hike Cascades, get on the bike, go to Adams and get on the bike path. There's tons of stuff to do here if you really want to get out and do it. Was it like when we were younger and you could go dancing in 3 different bars and that kind of stuff? No.
Never went into a bar in my life.
No,
I don't drink.
I'm using that as an example. But, the nightlife probably isn't as boisterous, but movie theaters, I'm crushed that we don't have a movie theater. I love going to the movie theater, but
No skating rinks, no arcades, no movie
the
theaters,
whole
no
industry.
dance clubs. Gringos was great back in the day.
But the whole industry with movies has changed. You talk about the skating rink. I worked at the skating rink for close to 12 years.
We don't even have a billiard.
Right. But the industry has changed. You can go to the Legion to play.
Industry has changed up here maybe, but not where I'm from. They still have everything I just mentioned.
Well, you can go to the American Legion to play pool. You can go to probably the Greylock Club to play pool.
Those are bars.
I don't know if Mingo's I think Mingo's has pool tables
Bars.
down back.
I want to be where there's not alcohol. I don't like the smell of it. I wouldn't want to bring my grandchild around that. That's not an environment I would want my children around.
And then there are things to do with the 2 bowling alleys. I think they still have that glow ball bowling at Valley Park. I know Mingo's does, or
Greylock Bowl.
the Greylock Bowl I want to call Super Nose.
Yeah, I know.
So there are things to do in North Adams if you really want to. But really, and for the elderly, our Council on Aging is really doing a lot of programming for our elderly, from yoga to balance classes to cooking classes to movies to theme parties. There's stuff going on. You just have to look.
So if you're elected, what would be your top 3 priorities after you took office, once you're sworn in?
Cutting the budget.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me. Infrastructure, lowering property taxes. I could go on. So if I could only pick 3, it'd be infrastructure, cutting the budget, and lowering property taxes.
Other than flowers on the main street, what would you cut out of the budget?
I don't know. You're about to change it again, so let me see the new one, and then I'll be able.
I don't change the budget till June.
Yeah.
Well, it's.
Like, where do you think there's fat? I'm just curious.
I would literally look over the budget itemize everything. See what's important, what's not important, what's inflated, what's not inflated. And definitely the flowers downtown, it wouldn't be annuals, it'd be perennials. Something you pay once and you're done. You know, I don't understand the unnecessary spending, just like what happened with, you know, Chief Wood. We just had to pay him who knows how much money for him being let go, you know. I'm sorry, that was just wrong. It's none of the city's business at all who he dates or he doesn't date, if he cheats on his wife or he doesn't cheat on his wife.
If you are a professional personnel manager, you would know that that is not a discussion to be had on TV.
Well, it needed to be said.
Well, I will say the same thing that I've said in my statement, that that decision was based on my ability to trust his ability to lead that department.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, you were out of line. That was no concern of yours, what he did in his private life. And that's just my opinion.
You only know one side of the story.
Well, I personally wouldn't let the city down. My house won't go into foreclosure and my car won't be repoed. I will make sure I budget correctly. Because if you can't handle your budget at your home, you can't handle a budget for the city.
I don't understand what you're talking about, because that whole dilemma with my house was a paperwork issue, and I've laid my head down in my house for the last 13 years and will continue to do so. So
It was concerning
Oh, of
when I
course it
seen
was.
that.
Oh my God, of course it was concerning. Try being me. Try being me when I was paying and my checks were being cashed and it came out. Try being me. It was all part of a refinance, April. And let me tell you, I have prided myself on financial stability. I have worked, like you, very hard since I was 13 years old, holding multiple jobs. So that's a, sorry, bologna sandwich. Topic.
It's cable.
If you want to talk about topics about this city, I've proven over the last, I've been out of college since 1995, that I am a strong and experienced leader. And I work very hard. And if you want to make comments like that, then I'll be happy to have a discussion with you off camera. Because I don't think it's relevant to why
Well,
we're here today.
It's about the budget.
Yeah. I asked
What
you
we're
what's
gonna
wrong,
do for
what's
the
wrong with
city?
the budget. Tell me what's wrong with the budget.
$47 million. This city is in debt. There's no jobs. There's no housing.
So as far as
There's
the
a
city,
lot wrong with the debt.
as far as the city being in debt, we carry a debt load that is very comparable to our comparable communities. Our debt load, our bond rating is in good shape.
We're not comparable to Williamstown.
We're not
They have a new
Williamstown.
fire department getting put up.
Yeah, ask them who's paying for that. Ask them who's paying for that. We're not like Williamstown.
No.
They get a tremendous amount of donations from Williams College.
Well, what about Massmoka? They have rentals and they're not even paying taxes on it.
The rental people pay personal property tax and a portion of taxation. They do.
Does Massmoka pay
Massmoka
taxes on all the rentals within Massmoka?
The people within Massmoka pay taxes. Massmoka as a entity doesn't pay taxes because technically the city of North Adams owns all those buildings. Technically.
But they don't pay rent.
The businesses within Massmoka
No,
pay rent.
Massmoka.
The administrative piece,
Massmoka itself.
the Massmoka campus
Correct.
does not pay property taxes as a whole.
But
Individual units within Massmoka.
Clock Art is tax-free, and they donate to Williamstown to help with the upkeep that brings the people to Clock Art. Why can't Massmoka?
Massmoka, under the new administration, Christy Edmonds, I don't know if you've met her,
No.
has been a great partner. They are a partner in this Driving Communities grant. And they are really focusing on really engaging with the community and getting people outside of the complex into our downtown. We're really working hard on wayfinding and being able to direct people. But I will say over the last 2 years, comparison to different leadership, Mass MoCA really wants to be part of the community, not a campus within itself. I think in the first 24 years, Christy's been there maybe a year, 2 years, 23 years, the goal was to build up Mass MoCA and keep everyone kind of in a silo. Now that they are established, they are really working very well with myself and other entities within the community to be a partner. So if, I know people are like, oh, the artists, the artists, the artists. Well, the artists contribute a lot to this community. They enrich this community, as do you and I who have been here for a long time.
So you would push MoCA to do a pilot program?
I think MoCA should be contributing more to the city. They haven't, and that's not right. When people come here for concerts, they're staying within MoCA. I live around the street from MoCA. I see it. They park in front of my house, for God's sakes. And they don't go downtown. They don't venture out. They go to the restaurants within MoCA, the shops within MoCA. You don't really see, for the amount of people that are in MoCA, there could be, say, 5,000, okay? You'll see, maybe 100 downtown, but that's not that 5,000.
At the last concert, Fresh Grass, I had 2 business owners tell me that it was the best Saturday that they've had in a long time, with people coming through their shops, through their businesses. There are people that venture out on the main street. We send people up to Jack's Hot Dog Stand. We send people to Village Pizza. We send people down to the Plant Collector. They're within MoCA, they can get on an app and see where everything is. So the community makes out well on those big events. When people come to visit MoCA, on a one-day tour, chances are maybe they don't leave MoCA because that's their destination. But those bigger events, they are definitely doing well by this community.
Not as good as they could be doing, though.
Well, I'm going to go back to Ms. Macksey because she didn't get a chance to tell me the 3 things that she's going to prioritize over the next 2 years.
It's funny, 2 years ago when we sat here with Lynette, was Rachel here? No.
No.
When we sat here, you talk about, all these things that are priority 1, 2, 3. Quite frankly, everything is a priority. Mm-hmm. So my goal is to continue on with the public safety pursuit, to continue on with the school projects, and really the next 2 years or next year is really focused on getting some of these engineered projects funded and out the door and to see, some progress there. Very excited about the Hoosick River flood control feasibility study, but everything is a priority. And people say, well, you got to narrow it down. One thing rolls into the other. So if you don't have good streets and sidewalks and infrastructure, you're not going to attract the businesses. If you don't attract the businesses and offset that commercial rate, you're not going to be satisfying the residents. If you can't hire police and firemen and public service employees, then you're not tending to your neighborhoods. So across the board, Tammy, everything is a priority. But the focus is on building our economic development structure, improving our infrastructure, and staying really focused on our kids.
And I'm going to ask Mohawk Theater, which didn't get brought up. Mm-hmm. What do we do with Mohawk Theater? Because that had been one of your priorities 2 years ago.
So first 6 months in office, we put it out to bid. We had, I think, 6 or 7 people who pulled plans, who were interested, who toured. When it came down to the bid opening or the RFP opening, we had no responses. Why did we have no responses? We talked to a couple people. Some of them was timing, some of them was cost of construction, and one was it just wasn't the right time for them. I think I already said timing. Mm-hmm. So what we've done now is we partnered with One Berkshire, not iBerkshire, One Berkshire, and we got a grant to restore the marquee, which will make it pretty, which will make the downtown, which will be preserving a historic element within the community. We're hoping to have that up and lit by December 1st.
Okay.
But that has been a big lift for us. And then the inside of the structure, once we get that done, the inside of the structure, we really will be looking for a couple of things. One, to put it back out to RFP. I think we kind of priced ourselves out a little bit with the bid deposit. Or secondly, looking to partner. I don't want to really run a theater. I want it to be a multi-purpose theater. I admire Yena Moore and Adams for what she's done. Why can't we do that here or complement that here? We can. So we need to find a partner or another entity that will do that. So the short of it is we will be putting out another RFP or looking for a partner for that. But our focus kind of switched gears when we didn't get anyone. We can't force someone to buy the theater. But I'm really focused on not giving it away. So the restoration of the Mohawk marquee has been really important. It's been a fun project. I have never seen so many different shades of red and orange and yellow in my life. But it will be nice when it's done. And I think it will be a center point and an attracting point to anyone who comes into our city.
What do you think we should do with the Mohawk Theater, which has been an albatross across every mayoral
I think it
candidate
shouldn't
for
have been
fiscal
messed with to begin with. When I first moved here, they had that little booth outside. Where did that go? That's no longer outside.
It's inside the
It's
theater.
inside.
You know, it should be placed back outside. It should look like it did back in the day. But the inside needs to be done. From what I've seen,
there's nothing.
It's gutted. It's gutted. It's awful. I honestly think the city should redo it and keep it.
Well, redo it as what? That has been the question for the past
You know,
20 years. Redo it
the-
as what?
Different bands play there, different
So as
plays.
a theater?
Yeah,
So
as a
you-
theater,
you
definitely.
agree it should stay as a theater?
Oh, God, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to see, I agree with April on that, some part of performing arts, but I'd
Oh,
like
definitely.
this space to be multi-purpose. So if we wanted to have, the mayor's meeting here, or you wanted to have a journalist meeting, we would have room there. And then offset the cost of that with some condos up top, or maybe some boutiques, as you walk in, but still have entertainment space.
Children could use it, MCLA students, put on theater. There's so much that can be done there.
But in order really for it to showcase as a theater and use the stage, we really need to blow out the back because there's no green room. There's no really holding room for performers to stage. And that always was a problem with the Mohawk. You would see the performers walking through the aisles to get on. But it has great potential. Definitely has great potential.
Okay. And well, since you're both agreeing, we'll sort of end on that note. And so saying, if you want to speak to the voters one more time, I'm going to let Ms. Macksey go first.
Sure. Tammy, I'd like to thank you very much for today and April. Even though we bantered a little bit, thank you.
You're welcome. I had to throw a little debate in there.
That's okay. We're good. We're good.
I had to.
So this election centers around one central theme, and that is leadership. Which of our two candidates are best prepared to lead the city for the next 2 years? North Adams is a $42+ million business, and it needs now more than ever strong and experienced leadership. During my tenure as mayor, we've secured approximately $4 million in new grants. We've reinstated the K-9 program in the police department. We've secured a temporary ADA compliant space for the police department. We have engineering projects across the board for many infrastructure needs, and we've secured funding for the Hoosick River Flood Control Feasibility Study. There is so much work that is left to be done. I'm proud of our accomplishments we've made in public safety, keeping our community safe, seizing close to $500,000 in drugs, 20 guns, and closing an arson case. I have been quite busy over the last 2 years, and again, my work is far from done, and I am up for the challenge to continue to work in your best interest every day. I ask for your support because I can't win this election alone. I will be the mayor who represents all people. I will be the mayor that not only talks about accountability and transparency, but I will practice both. I will be fair, but yet firm when needed. I will ask no more of my staff than I will do. I will be a hands-on working mayor. I will work every day in your best interest, the residents of this community. I would be so honored to continue as your mayor. My work is far from done. I've had opportunities to go elsewhere, but I choose you, the residents of this community, and I ask on November 7th that you choose me to be your next mayor. I hope I've earned your vote and your confidence to continue in this role, and I look forward to doing so. Thank you.
And Ms. Carsno.
November 7th is coming up really quick. You can start voting at 7 in the morning now, which is great for people that, unfortunately were missing due to the hour, I look outside the box. We need low-income housing. Our infrastructure needs to be addressed. Sidewalks, sinkholes, our schools, our safety buildings. I'm looking at everything. There's such a long list of things that I really want to implement. And I was lucky enough for Macksey to implement the police department. We need the city to move forward. We're stuck in history. We have almost no downtown. There's nothing here. I need your vote in order to move the city forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you I would like to thank Ms. Carsno and Ms. Macksey for having a really excellent debate, I would say, on a lot of issues. You're very civil, and we ended on an agreement, which was nice.
I'm very passionate about this.
All right. And I just want to remind everyone that the election is November 7th. It is from 7 to 7 at St. Elizabeth's Parish. You can also start voting now. Early voting is open. And this will be our last conversation with the candidates. I want to thank everyone for participating in this, and I want to thank Northern Berkshire Community Television for allowing us to have it here at the studio. And goodbye until our next election.